Welcome to Almost Alone. Tonight's episode is about roads. Most of us spend hours in our cars every week without a second thought. It's automatic, background noise. The part of the day that exists between the parts that actually matter. But a road is also one of the loneliest places you can be. You're enclosed, moving, separated from everyone around you by glass and speed, and the assumption that the other people out there are just trying to get somewhere too. Most of the time, that assumption is right. Tonight's stories are about what happens when it isn't. Two submissions, two ordinary moments, a merge, a parking space, that became something neither person saw coming until it was already too late to stop it. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been listening a while, thank you. The submission link is in the description if you have a story of your own. Let's begin. I'm 33 now. This happened 14 months ago. Recent enough that I still notice it in small ways I didn't expect. The way I scan a parking lot before I open my door. The way I reach back and check Lily's buckle twice even when I know I already did it right the first time. The way certain Saturday afternoons feel slightly loaded before anything has even happened. Lily is 5. She's at the age where she narrates everything she's doing out loud, where every question is followed immediately by 3 more questions, where the world is still mostly safe and mostly good and mostly organized around whatever she needs it to be at any given moment. I'm grateful she remembers that day the way 5-year-olds remember things, in feelings, rather than details, loud, scary. And then it was over, and then we went to Grandma's, and then there was macaroni for dinner. I remember every second of it. It was a Saturday in September, one of those last warm weekends before the air changes, and you realize summer is actually gone this time. We'd driven across town to a big boxcraft store because Lily had decided, not wanted, decided, with the full conviction of someone who has never once been told their ideas aren't worth pursuing, that she needed to build a birdhouse. She'd seen one in a book at school, a yellow one with a round hole in the front and a little wooden perch. She'd been asking about it every morning for a week. I'd promised her the previous Saturday, and then life got in the way. And when you promise a 5-year-old something and then fail to deliver, they don't forget. They track it. So that Saturday we went. The parking lot was the way those lots always are on weekends. Crowded, chaotic. Everyone slightly more aggressive than they need to be. Carts left sideways across empty spaces. People walking down the center of the lane with the confidence of people who have never thought once about the cars around them. I drove slowly. Lily singing something to herself in the back seat. The two of us in no particular hurry. I spotted a space near the cart return. Important detail. I specifically look for spots near the cart return when I have Lily with me, so I don't have to leave her alone in the car to return the cart afterward. Anyone who's shopped with a small child alone knows this logic. You think about these things. I signaled and started to pull in. He came from the other direction, a silver sedan, moving faster than anyone should in a parking lot, angling for the same space from the opposite end of the lane. I didn't see him until I was already halfway in. My front end committed, my angle already set, momentum already carrying me through the turn. We stopped with our noses pointed at each other across the space. A standoff, the kind that happens a dozen times a day in parking lots everywhere. Usually someone waves the other person in, or one person backs out, and everyone moves on and never thinks about it again. I was already halfway in. He wasn't in at all. I finished pulling in. The horn started before I'd even straightened the wheel. Long, continuous. The kind of horn that isn't communicating anymore. It's performing. Heads turned 3 rows over. I saw a woman with a cart stop and look. I kept my eyes forward, put the car in park, and took a breath. Lily had stopped singing. I got out, opened her rear door, and started unbuckling her car seat. I was focused on her, on getting her out safely, on not making eye contact with whoever was in the silver sedan, on just moving efficiently and getting inside. He pulled up alongside my car. I didn't look at him directly at first. I heard his window come down. I heard him say something, then another thing. His voice was loud, not quite yelling, but the volume of someone who has decided that their anger is entitled to take up space. I'm not going to repeat what he said word for word. The content was that the space was his, that I had stolen it, that I was a specific kind of person for doing so. Standard parking lot grievance delivered at a volume that made Lily go very still in her seat and look up at me with those wide, uncertain eyes that children get when they sense something is wrong, but don't understand what. I didn't respond. I finished unbuckling her, lifted her out, set her on her feet, and took her hand. "Don't look at him," I said quietly. "Just walk with me." "Why is he yelling?" she whispered. "He's having a hard day. Come on." We walked toward the store entrance without looking back. He followed us with his car. That's the part that shifted something in me even then, even before things escalated into what they became. He drove his car alongside us, slowly, rolling, engine low, while he leaned out the window and continued, not parking, not moving on. Following us with a vehicle while we walked on foot, a woman and a 5-year-old crossing a parking lot. Lily's hand tightened in mine. I kept our pace steady, not running. If I ran, she'd panic. If I slowed, he might stop entirely. The automatic doors opened and the store swallowed us, and the sound of him cut off. Lily looked up at me. "Is he going to come in?" "No," I said. "He's just upset about parking. It's already done." She accepted this. Kids that age want to believe you. They're still in the stage where your certainty can override their fear, and I held on to that like it was the only useful tool I had. We spent about 40 minutes inside. Lily picked her wood panels, her small hinges, a bottle of yellow paint that she held with both hands the entire time we were in the store, a packet of decorative stones that she absolutely did not need and that I bought without argument. I let her take her time. I wasn't going to rush her through the one thing she'd been excited about all week because a stranger in a parking lot had ruined my mood. But I kept glancing toward the entrance. I told myself I was being paranoid. He'd driven off. He'd found another space. He was already inside somewhere buying whatever he came for, already over it, already forgotten us entirely. That's what I told myself. We checked out, loaded the bags into the cart, and walked back through the automatic doors into the afternoon. He was parked directly behind my car, not in a space, directly behind it, perpendicular to the lane, blocking me completely, engine running, no flashers, just sitting there. I stopped walking. I took inventory of the row. There were other cars, people coming and going, a man loading bags into an SUV 2 spaces down, a woman pushing a cart toward the return rack. People, witnesses, activity. None of them were looking at me. I thought about turning around and going back inside. I've thought about that moment 1,000 times since. The fact that I saw him there and did not immediately turn around. I've tried to understand why. I think it was some combination of not wanting to believe it had escalated to something I needed to actually avoid, and not wanting to frighten Lily by making the situation feel more serious than I told her it was. I made the wrong call. I walked to my car, loaded the bags into the trunk, and lifted Lily into her seat. I buckled her in. I told her we'd go get ice cream on the way home, which made her smile and start debating flavors immediately, which was the point. I needed her focused on something else. I got into the driver's seat and locked the doors. He got out of his car. He was younger than I'd expected. Late 20s, maybe just 30. Lean, wiry, the kind of build that moves quickly. He had on a gray t-shirt and dark jeans. Nothing remarkable. The face of someone you'd pass in a grocery store and not remember. He wasn't large. He wasn't physically imposing in any obvious way. What was wrong about him was the focus. He walked directly to my door. Not to the trunk to look at his car. Not to the rear of my vehicle to assess whatever he thought I'd done. Straight to my window, driver's side, where I was. He knocked on the glass with his knuckle. Hard. The kind of knock that isn't asking to be heard. It already knows it's heard. The kind that establishes something. I didn't roll the window down. He knocked again and said something. The glass muffled the words, but not the tone. The tone was the same as before. That flat, insistent register of someone who has decided they are owed something and has arrived to collect it. From the back seat, Lily said quietly, "Mommy." Just my name. Just that one word in the particular voice she uses when she's scared and trying not to show it because she doesn't want me to be scared too. I had my phone in my hand. I held it up, deliberately, visibly, and opened the keypad. I wanted him to see me ready to dial. I wanted the sight of that to be enough. He looked at the phone. He looked at me. He stepped back from the window, and I felt the tight wire in my chest begin to loosen, just slightly. He wasn't leaving. He'd stepped back to give himself room. He grabbed the side mirror with both hands and wrenched it forward. It didn't come off. Car mirrors are designed with a breakaway hinge, specifically so they don't. But the impact was loud. A hard plastic crack against the door panel, and the mirror folded flat. From the back seat, Lily screamed, not a word, not my name. Just a sound, high and sharp and terrified. The sound of a child who has just had something loud and violent happen inches from where she's sitting. That sound. I've thought a lot about what changed in me in that moment. I think it was very simple. Everything before that, the parking lot, the following, the knocking on the window, all of that was about me. Frightening, yes. Threatening, yes. But aimed at me, and I could hold it. That sound was Lily. I put both hands on the horn, and I held it down. Continuous, unrelenting, as loud as that car could produce. He startled backward, a full step, involuntary, his body reacting before his brain caught up. I saw his expression shift from that cold, focused anger into something more animal. Surprise. Irritation at being surprised. He recovered fast. His face went red and his jaw set, and he raised his right fist and drove it into my window. What happened next happened in about 1 second, but I've turned it over so many times in my memory that it exists now in much finer detail than 1 second should contain. The window didn't shatter the way glass shatters in films. That clean, explosive spray, the dramatic collapse. Tempered safety glass fails differently. It caved first, a starburst fracture spreading outward from the point of impact, the whole pane going white and opaque in an instant. Then the pressure of his fist continuing through it, his momentum not stopping at the surface, carrying into the car. The glass came inward in chunks, not shards, small dense cubes of it, the way car glass is designed to break, raining across the door panel, across my left shoulder into my lap. His arm came through, up to the elbow, through the hole where my window had been, his fist inside my car. And then he pulled it back. That's when I heard his sound, not a word, a sharp, involuntary noise, the kind that comes out of you before you have any say in it, when pain arrives faster than your brain can process it. He pulled his arm back through the broken glass and stumbled away from the door, and I could see it immediately, even through everything else that was happening. His hand was wrong. The knuckles were open, not scraped, open. The glass had done what glass does when you drive your fist through it. Not from the outside in, which might have been cleaner, but from the inside out, the broken edges catching his skin on the way back. His palm and the inside of his wrist were torn. Blood running fast, already dripping off his elbow, spattering on the asphalt, in a way that seemed to surprise him more than it surprised me. He stood there looking at his hand. The horn was still going. I hadn't taken my hands off it. I didn't realize that until later. He looked up. The man 2 spaces down had stopped loading his car. He was standing completely still, watching. The woman who'd been walking toward the cart return had stopped and had her phone raised, not to her ear, raised, camera out. An older couple near the store entrance had turned and stopped walking and were standing there watching. He saw them seeing him. Something moved across his face that I couldn't fully name. Not remorse, not fear exactly. More like the sudden awareness of exposure, of having done something visible, something recorded, something witnessed by enough people that the situation had shifted in a direction he hadn't anticipated. He got in his car. He left. The horn was still going. I took my hands off it. The silence that followed was enormous. The kind of silence that only exists right after something loud. The particular quality of air after an impact. When the world is recalibrating. From the backseat very quietly, Lily said, "Mommy, are you hurt?" I turned around. She was pressed back against her seat, both hands in her lap, eyes wide and dry. She'd stopped crying at some point. I don't know when. She was looking at me with an expression I'd never seen on her face before. Not the ordinary worry of a 5-year-old. Something older than that. "I'm okay," I said. "There's glass on you." I looked down. There was. Small cubes of it. Across my left shoulder and in my lap. Not in my skin. I ran my hand across my shoulder and nothing caught. I wasn't bleeding. I was fine. "I'm okay," I said again. "We're both okay." She was quiet for a moment. Then, "Is he coming back?" The man who'd been 2 spaces over appeared at the broken window before I could answer. He asked if we were all right, said he'd seen the whole thing, said he'd already called 911. He stood there, just stood there, between my car and the lane, this stranger who had decided to be useful. And I was so grateful for it, I couldn't speak for a moment. The police arrived in about 12 minutes. I gave a statement in the parking lot, glass still in my lap, Lily sitting on the curb next to me eating a granola bar someone had produced from somewhere. The woman who'd had her phone out had caught the last portion of it on video. From the moment he'd stepped back from the window through the punch, the aftermath, the blood, his retreat. She gave her information to the officer without being asked. So did the man who'd called 911. So did the older couple. 4 witnesses, 1 video. A detective called 4 days later. They'd identified him from the partial plate I'd given them combined with the footage, clear enough to confirm the car, the license, the driver. He'd gone to an urgent care clinic about 2 miles from the store that same afternoon. Lacerations across 3 fingers, the palm, and the inside wrist. Several stitches. They had the record. They charged him. Criminal mischief, assault. A few additional counts I don't remember the exact language of. The window cost $430 to replace. I spent the first week afterward running through every decision I'd made and cataloging the ones I'd made wrong. When I saw him parked behind me, I should have walked back into the store. When he got out of his car and started toward my window, I should have already been on the phone with 911, not holding it up as a visual threat, actually dialing. When I heard Lily scream, I should have leaned on that horn 30 seconds before I actually did. The self-audit is its own kind of aftermath. You want there to be a lesson that puts you in control of what happened. You want the narrative to be, if I had done X, Y would not have occurred, because that means if you just do X next time, you'll be safe. But that's not what I actually learned. What I learned is this. The reason he left was not because of anything I did. It was because he put his fist through a window, and the window did what glass does, and he hurt himself badly enough that the situation changed. His plan, whatever it was, ran into a consequence he hadn't prepared for. He looked at his hand, and he looked at the people watching, and he made the calculation that the moment had turned against him. I didn't make him leave. His own hand did. And if he'd been wearing gloves, or if he'd been a little less impulsive about how he hit the glass, or if it had been a different kind of window. I don't let myself think past that. There's nowhere useful that thought goes. Lily built her birdhouse the following weekend. She painted it yellow, exactly like the one in her book, with small red dots around the hole, because she decided it needed decoration that the book hadn't thought of. We hung it from the oak tree in the backyard, and in the spring, real spring, the following April, a pair of house sparrows nested in it. She checked on it every single morning before school. She doesn't talk about the parking lot, but some nights, when I'm putting her to bed and the lamp is low and she's almost asleep, she reaches up and holds onto my hand for a minute before she lets go. She never says anything when she does it. She just holds on. I think it's just what she needs sometimes. I think I understand that, because I still check the parking lot before I open my door. I still note which way a car is facing, whether an engine is running, whether someone is sitting in a vehicle that should be empty. I still reach back and touch Lily's buckle twice, not because I think he's out there, because I know now, the way you can only know after you've actually felt it, how fast a Saturday afternoon can change, how quickly the ordinary mechanics of a crowded parking lot can become something else entirely, how close everything always is, how little distance there is between the world where your daughter is singing in the back seat on the way to buy paint and wood and decorative stones she doesn't need, and the world where you take your hands off the horn and sit in the silence and wait to find out if you're still okay. I'm 28 now. This happened when I was 17, the summer before my senior year, about 3 months after I got my license. I'd been driving alone for maybe 6 weeks at that point. 6 weeks of feeling invincible behind the wheel, the way only a 17-year-old can. Windows down, music too loud, completely unaware of how much I still didn't know. The car was a 2003 Civic my uncle handed down when he bought something newer. Beige. One working speaker. A crack in the dashboard, shaped like a river. I love that car the way you can only love something that's entirely yours for the first time. I was on my way back from my friend Derek's house, about 40 minutes from home, on a route I'd only driven a handful of times. Not unfamiliar, but not automatic either. I still had to think about the turns, still had to pay attention to where I was going, instead of just letting muscle memory carry me. It was early evening. That weird stretch of summer light where the sun is low but hasn't set yet, hitting your mirrors at exactly the wrong angle. The kind of light that makes everything feel slightly unreal. I remember squinting. I remember turning down the radio so I could concentrate. The highway had a merge lane that fed onto the main road from an on-ramp, a spot where traffic compressed and you had to time it right. I'd taken it before, but only with my dad in the passenger seat telling me when to go. Alone, I misjudged it. I don't think I cut anyone off. I genuinely don't. I checked my mirror, saw what I thought was enough space, and moved over. In hindsight, the gap was probably tighter than I realized. Maybe I forced him to tap his brakes. Maybe I made him spill something. Maybe I just appeared in his lane at a moment when he'd already had a bad day, and I was the thing that broke it open. I'll never know exactly what I did, because whatever it was, it felt like nothing on my end. A normal merge. An ordinary moment on an ordinary evening. What I noticed was the horn. Long, sustained. Not a quick tap of warning. A held-down, deliberate blast that went on long enough to make it a statement rather than a reflex. I glanced in my rearview mirror. A black truck, sitting maybe 2 car lengths back, headlights already on, even though it wasn't quite dark yet. The gap between us felt wrong, too close, closer than traffic required. I moved into the right lane to give him room to pass. He moved into the right lane too. I told myself it was coincidence. He was changing lanes, same as me. That happens. I slowed slightly, leaving space. He slowed with me. Perfectly. Like a mirror. I remember the exact second I understood that it wasn't coincidence. He drifted up alongside me, just briefly, just long enough, and I turned my head without thinking. The driver's window was down. He was staring straight at me, not at the road, not ahead, at me. His face was red, jaw tight, the look of someone who had already decided something. He dropped back behind me. Then the lights. He flashed them once, twice. Then he left them on high beam, full and unblinking, flooding my mirrors with white until I could barely see anything behind me except the outline of his truck inside the glare. I turned the radio all the way off. I was 17. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what you're supposed to do. Nobody tells you this in driver's ed, what to do when someone decides to follow you. So I did the only thing I could think of. I sped up. He sped up too. I changed lanes. He changed lanes. I pushed it past 70. The Civic shook above that. A faint vibration in the wheel, a shudder through the seat. But I held it. He matched me without any apparent effort. The truck sat back there solid and steady, those high beams never moving. I took the next exit without signaling. I barely made it. Tires skipping across the rumble strip, the car leaning hard as I followed the ramp down. I thought maybe I'd lose him, that he'd be past the exit before he could react, that I'd look in the mirror and the truck would be gone. He made the exit. He must have cut across a lane to do it. He was closer now than he'd been before. Now I was on surface streets I didn't fully know, in a part of town I'd driven through maybe once or twice, and there was a black truck behind me that wasn't leaving. My hands were so tight on the wheel, I could feel my pulse in my palms. I kept telling myself to think. Just think. Find somewhere with people. Find a gas station, a shopping center, anything with lights and other human beings. But I didn't know where anything was. I made a left at what I thought was a main road. It wasn't. It fed into a residential neighborhood. Quiet streets, driveways, houses set back from the road. The kind of area that's completely empty at 7 in the evening, because everyone's inside eating dinner. I tried to find my way back to something recognizable. I turned right, then right again, then left. Every turn felt like progress, and none of it was. I was going in a direction I couldn't name, in a neighborhood that had no reason to help me, and behind me the truck just followed. Every turn I made, it made. No gap, no hesitation. At one point, I tried to reach my phone from the cup holder. I took my eyes off the road for maybe 2 seconds, and when I looked back up, I was drifting toward a parked car on the right shoulder. I yanked the wheel and straightened out, heart slamming, and didn't try for the phone again. The houses thinned out. The streetlights got farther apart. I'd driven myself somewhere more isolated without realizing it. I pushed harder on the accelerator. The Civic protested. That shudder through the frame, the engine note climbing into something strained. But I held it. 70 on a surface street. 75. The truck stayed with me. Then it got closer, not to pass, not to pull alongside, just closer. Close enough that his headlights disappeared from my mirrors entirely because he was too near for the angle. And what replaced them was just the massive dark shape of his grille filling my rear window. He hit me. The first impact was light, a tap, just enough contact to feel deliberate, to make absolutely clear that it wasn't an accident, that he had chosen to close that distance and make contact with my car. My whole body tensed. My teeth came together. I hit the gas harder. He hit me again. This time it wasn't a tap. The force drove me forward in my seat. The seatbelt locked against my chest, and I heard something. A crunch from the rear of the car, something giving way. The Civic fishtailed slightly before I got it back. My vision went white for a moment, pure adrenaline, and I was screaming, actually screaming out loud, alone in the car. Just noise coming out of me because there was nowhere else for it to go. I blew through a stop sign. I know that now. I didn't see it at the time. I turned hard onto a wider road, 4 lanes, lit, other cars, and cut across 2 of them without looking. Someone leaned on their horn behind me and I didn't care. I just needed to be somewhere visible, somewhere with witnesses. The truck followed me through the intersection. I could see him in my mirror now, weaving between cars, closing the distance again. Not reckless, purposeful, like he knew exactly what he was doing and was confident I couldn't stop it. I was looking for anything, a police car, a fire station, a gas station with its canopy lights blazing. I was scanning every side street, every parking lot, every lit storefront I passed. There was nothing, just road, just him behind me. And then his truck moved. I saw it in my mirror. A sudden lurch, violent, like something underneath had let go all at once. The rear end kicked hard to the right, tires screaming across the asphalt. And for a half second I thought he was going to lose it completely. Spin out, hit something, flip. He didn't. He caught the wheel and kept it upright. But the truck slowed, sharply, immediately. Something was wrong with it. The front left corner dropped, not gradually, not slowly, but suddenly, the way a tire goes, when it doesn't deflate, but detonates. The vehicle lurched onto its rim, the sound audible even through my windows and over my own engine, a grinding, tearing noise that carried through the night air. He kept trying to drive. I watched it in my mirror. He stayed on the road for another few hundred feet, the ruined tire throwing sparks where the rim contacted the asphalt, the truck pulling violently left. Then he slowed to a crawl and finally stopped, hazard lights flickering on, sitting there on the shoulder with that one corner collapsed and useless. I didn't believe it at first. I kept driving and kept watching the mirror, waiting for the hazards to go off, waiting for him to pull back into traffic, waiting for the truck to somehow recover and come after me again. I drove another mile before I let myself accept that it wasn't moving, that it was just sitting there getting smaller in my mirror until I turned a corner and it disappeared entirely. I drove for another 10 minutes before I pulled over. I don't remember choosing to stop. I just became aware that I was sitting in a lit parking lot on a street I didn't recognize, engine running, hands still on the wheel. I don't know how long I sat there, long enough to stop shaking, long enough for the sound of my own breathing to become something I could control. I called my mom. She answered on the second ring, and I tried to explain what had happened. I'm not sure I was coherent. She asked me where I was, and I had to look around for a street sign before I could tell her. She called the police with my location while I stayed on the line. An officer called me back within a few minutes and took a description of the truck over the phone. I gave them as much as I could remember: the make, the color, the approximate location where I'd last seen it. I don't know if they ever found him. No one called me with an update. No report was filed in my name. I was a minor who'd been run off the road, and I went home that night and told my mom I was fine and went to bed and stared at the ceiling until it started to get light outside. I didn't tell anyone else. Not Derek. Not my dad. Not my friends at school. Because what would I have said? Nothing happened. No accident. No injury. My bumper was cracked, and a stranger drove aggressively behind me for 15 minutes and then got a blowout. That's all. That's the story on the surface. But underneath it is what I know now that I didn't know at 17. He wasn't just following me. He wasn't just being aggressive or trying to scare me. Those bumper taps weren't expressions of anger. They were tools. He was trying to cause an accident. On a quiet residential street, away from witnesses, late enough in the evening that the chance of someone seeing it was low. He was trying to make my car go off the road or spin out or hit something. And whatever came after that, whatever he'd planned for after I wasn't moving anymore, I've never let myself think through completely. I've tried to be fair about it. I've told myself that maybe I'm wrong, that maybe he really was just a furious driver venting road rage, and the bumper hits were impulsive and stupid rather than calculated. That the isolated streets were coincidence. That the sustained pursuit was just anger and nothing more. But I come back to the patience of it. He stayed with me for 15 minutes across multiple roads and turns and speed changes. That's not rage. Rage burns out. Rage leans on the horn and screams out the window and eventually moves on. What he did was sustained and deliberate and followed me through every attempt I made to lose him. That's not someone who was angry. That's someone who had decided. And his tire blew before whatever he decided could happen. I still use that merge every now and then. Same highway, same on-ramp, same low evening sun hitting the mirrors. Every time I check before I move. Every time I give more space than I think I need. Every time I glance in the rear view after and watch the car behind me for just a moment longer than necessary. I don't think about it every day anymore, but it's there, underneath everything. The knowledge that on an ordinary summer evening, I made an ordinary mistake on an ordinary road, and something followed me home from it that I'm still not entirely sure I've left behind. I didn't do anything right that night. I panicked. I made wrong turns. I drove myself somewhere more isolated, not less. I couldn't even get to my phone. His truck failed. That's the whole reason I'm here. And that's the part that keeps me up sometimes. Not the fear of what happened, but the understanding of what almost did, and how little I had to do with the difference. That's the end of tonight's episode. A merge. A parking space. That's all it took. Both of these people survived, not because they were prepared or smart or did the right thing at the right moment. They survived because circumstances broke in their favor when they needed it most. That's the uncomfortable part. That's always the uncomfortable part. If tonight's episode stayed with you, leave a comment or hit the like button. It helps more people find the channel. And if you have your own story, submit it through the link in the description. Thank you for listening to Almost Alone. Stay aware out there, and I'll see you in the next one.